So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Zoom and on Facebook. We have the topic, why you are not defined by your circumstances. Okay, so we're going to get to that question and that topic in a bit. In the meantime, we're going to start with the story of Yaakov, our forefather, and it is a fascinating story, a dramatic story, quite a dramatic story. And this is after the story opens up after 20 years of Yaakov being away from his family, from his parents' home. He had to run away because his brother Esav was plotting to kill him. His brother Esav was angry at Yaakov, his brother, for stealing his blessings. So Yaakov had no choice but to escape. After 20 years of living far away from home, Yaakov knew that the time had come to return home, to return to Israel, and to finally face his brother. Now, Yaakov had no idea how this encounter would go. He had no idea what Esav felt about him. And so it was very difficult to prepare and to plan for such an encounter. And it was certainly a very scary time and a stressful time. So what Yaakov did was he collected gifts and sent these gifts with messengers to Esav to try to appease Esav and to find out what was going on at the same time. So the messengers are sent, they're carrying the gifts, and lo and behold, they come back with a report that Esav is approaching Yaakov. He's also coming towards Yaakov, but he's not alone. He's with 400 men, he's with a powerful army. And this was a bad sign because that meant that Esav was going to war against Yaakov. So what do we do? What does Yaakov do? What is the Jewish response to this kind of situation? When you're faced with an enemy, what do? So I'd like to share my screen and just to see the original text, the text of the story. I think it's very powerful to understand what was going on and what steps Yaakov took when preparing to face his brother Esav. So let me see how I can share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you could see my screen. We have the first section of the story of this week's Torah portion, and we'll go through it, just the section, just to see what it was like for Yaakov to prepare for this encounter. So I'll just read it. Yaakov sent angels ahead of him to his brother Esav to the land of Seir, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "So shall you say to my master, to Esav, thus said your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Lavan, and I have tarried until now. And I have acquired oxen and donkeys, flocks, manservants and maidservants, and I've sent to tell this to my master to find favor in your eyes." The angels returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother, to Esav, and he's also coming towards you, and 400 men are with him." Yaakov became very frightened and was distressed, so he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the cattle and the camels into 2 camps. And he said, "If Esav comes to one camp and strikes it down, the remaining camp will escape." And Yaakov said, "O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord, who said to me, 'Return to your land and to your birthplace, and I will do good to you.' I've become small from all of the kindnesses and from all the truth that you have rendered your servant. For with my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I've become two camps. Now deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esav, for I'm afraid of him, lest he come and strike me and strike a mother with children. And you said, I will surely do good with you, and I'll make your seed as numerous as the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted because of multitude. So what did Yaakov do? What is the Jewish response to this type of challenge, the most difficult challenge facing an enemy who is out to get you and who is out to destroy you? So if you notice in the text, there are three steps that Yaakov takes. And these are lessons for us to understand what we could do when we face any type of challenge. So what are these three steps? So the first thing that Yaakov did was he sent gifts to Esav, tried to appease his brother. So what was he doing? He was trying to make peace. So the first thing we try to do is to make peace, to see if the other is willing to, to join in friendship and to give a hand in peace, and to have a positive outcome and hopefully an easy outcome to the situation and to the circumstances. So that was Yaakov's first move, to send gifts and to try to make peace. But we always have to. Yaakov had to be prepared for any eventuality, and he had to be prepared for the possibility that Esav would not be willing to make peace, and so therefore he had to prepare for war. And so he divided his camp, he divided the people on the cattle, and he made a strategy for battle. What's going to happen if we actually do need to fight? What steps are we going to take, and what strategy are we going to use? So this was the second step. And the third step was to pray. Yaakov prayed to God. He said, he prayed, he said to the God of Avram, to the God of Yitzchak, Abraham, and Isaac. And he said, you promised me that I'm going to be safe and you're going to bring me back home. So now keep your promise, watch after me, watch after my family, my belongings, and let us be successful in this encounter, and that it should have a good outcome. So this is a powerful message and a powerful lesson. What we could, how we could deal with an enemy, or how we could deal with the situation. So Yaakov took steps against an army, against Esav and 400 men, first to try to make peace, prepare for war, and then to pray to God. And the same thing is in any situation that we encounter. First, we need to see what practical steps we could take to ensure a positive outcome to whatever situation we're in. So there are always steps that we could take. Yaakov tried to make peace, then prepared a strategy for battle. We could do the same thing. We always need to see what are the practical steps that we could take to make sure that this is going to end well and that this is going to move in the right direction. And of course, we always have to pray to God, because at the end of the day, God is in control, and He could make things happen, things that might be beyond our capacity and beyond our personal ability and power. And that does not take away from the practical steps that we need to take. We still need to do whatever we could to ensure a positive outcome. And this is what God wants from us as well. He wants us to do our part. He wants us to prepare whatever practical steps we understand that we need to take, but also to at the same time to pray to God and to put our trust and faith in God that it's going to be a positive outcome. So number one, to take the practical steps, but also to pray to God and to realize that that God is watching over us, and we're asking him to protect us, to keep us safe, and to give us success in whatever situation it might be. Okay, so that is yes, Paul.
He did two other things.
Yes.
Also, he humbled himself. He called himself your servant. So he wasn't taking a he wasn't like, I'm come back, I've got these things for you, and he was taking a humble position.
Right.
And number two, he didn't apologize for you referred to as stealing the birthright, but it wasn't a steal. He wasn't self-deprecating for no reason at all, because he had actually bought the birthright from his brother. He just tricked him because it wasn't what he was expecting or whatever, but it wasn't he wasn't stealing anything. So he just went there forward on his best foot, I would say, put his best foot forward, as you said, with those other points that he did.
Excellent points. 100%. Humility is an important step for peace, right? To extend a hand in peace and to show that you're really ready for it. And the other thing, I agree with you 100%. He didn't apologize. He remained proud, and that's something very powerful. You can make peace and you can be humble, but you could still be proud of who you are, what you've accomplished, and what you stand for. Definitely. I'd like to I'd like to take a closer look at these messengers that Yaakov sent to Esau to get carrying these gifts. And we're going to find out something interesting about these messengers and what they represent, especially on a deeper level. So I'm going to share my screen again, and this time we're going to go to the next page. And this is back to the same verse, to the first verse of the story that we read at the very beginning. And I included two words, which is the commentary of Rashi. Rashi is the most famous commentator on the Torah. Also, the Talmud. Rashi is a very important commentary. And Rashi says something very interesting and very unusual. So just to read the verse again, Yaakov sent angels ahead of him to his brother Esau, to the land of Seir, to the field of Edom. What does Rashi say? Actual angels. Actual angels. So what does that mean? And what is Rashi adding to the story that we don't already know? And what is the meaning behind these strange words, actual angels? So it's very interesting. If you look at the Hebrew word of that the Torah chooses to use for these messengers, the word is malachim. Malachim, vayishlach malachim. He sent malachim. What does malachim mean? So actually, malachim has two meanings. One meaning is messengers, and another meaning is angels. Okay, so it's the same word for both. And the reason why angels are also called malachim, messengers, is because angels are the messengers of God. So throughout the Torah, the same word could be used for both messengers and for angels. So what does it mean? What does it mean over here? What is the who were these messengers? Were they people or were they angels? And this is what Rashi is coming to clarify. And Rashi says the words actual angels. Actual meaning that they were people. So actual in the Hebrew, it's malachim mamash. Mamash is something that you could touch, something that you could feel. So physical. So Rashi is trying to say that it was physical people. Now, this is a simple meaning of the Rashi. But there's actually a deeper meaning here as well. And this commentary is by a Hasidic master who lived about 250 years ago. His name is Rabbi Dovber from the city of Mezrich. And he gave a deeper and very mystical meaning to Rashi's words. Rashi again says actual angels. And what Rabbi Dovber of Mezrich says is that something very interesting was happening here. The actual part of the angels were sent to Esav, but their spirit, their soul, so to speak, remained behind. So when Rashi says what was sent to Esav, it was the actual angels, basically the actual part, the physical part, the body of the messengers of the angels. But there was a part that remained behind with Yaakov. It was the spirit and the soul, so to speak, that remained behind with Yaakov. Now, what is this all about, and what is the meaning of all this? These messengers had a difficult task at hand, because on a practical level, they needed to deliver these gifts and to also find out, where Esav stood, how he felt about Yaakov, and what the situation on the ground was. That was on a practical level. On a more spiritual level, there was also something very deep going on, because they were supposed to be laying the groundwork to allow Yaakov to finally refine Esav and Esav's character, and to elevate Esav on a spiritual level, and to kind of turn him around, to help him channel his immense energy for positive things. So as we've discussed in the past, Yaakov, of course, represents spirituality. He's the person who sits in the tents of Torah study, even though he had a long journey and things changed for him. But that's who Yaakov is in essence. He's the spiritual person, and Esav is quite the opposite. Esav is the one who represents materialism, and he's called the man of the field, the hunter. And so there's this very big difference in character, and very big difference in what they represent. And of course, Esav was going down a bad path and a wrong path, and ultimately Yaakov had this mission and had this job to help transform Esav. So these angels, they had a very difficult mission, because both on a practical level, they had to see what was going on in terms of the strategy, but also on a more spiritual level, they had to lay the groundwork for this transformation to happen. Now, when they were going to Esav, they were going to a very dangerous place. They were going to a very dangerous place, both physically, because they didn't know how Esav would accept them, and also spiritually. They were coming directly in touch with forces of evil, and Esav's character and Esav's forces and the forces of his men. So they needed to ensure that not only could they, obviously their mission was to lay the groundwork for this transformation, but how are they going to make sure that they themselves would not be influenced by the energy and by the forces of evil that Esav and his men possessed? How would they make sure that they would remain safe themselves, right? So both physically and spiritually. And the answer is these key words, that the actual part of the messengers, of the angels, their body, the physical part of them, that part went to meet with Esav and to lay the groundwork for the transformation. But a part of them, their spirit and their soul, remained with Yaakov. And what that represented was that their minds and their hearts were focused on their mission. They knew that they knew that they truly belonged with Yaakov. So Yaakov is the spiritual one. So by keeping their soul, so to speak, with Yaakov, that basically represented how they were attached to Yaakov spiritually, attached to this spiritual source, and by staying connected to that, they could be successful in not only themselves staying safe physically and spiritually, but hopefully to be able to lay the groundwork for the transformation of Esav and the negativity to take place. So this is what it means that the actual part of the messengers were sent, but the spirit and soul remain behind. That is the idea of staying connected to the roots, to the spiritual roots. So even if you're going to a dangerous place, you're connected to your source, connected to where you truly belong, and that keeps you on track. That keeps you that keeps your integrity, the spiritual integrity. Make sure that they stay safe. And this, I think, is a very powerful lesson in life, because we could find ourselves in all different types of situations and all different types of circumstances that are almost always beyond our control. And the question is, how are we going to deal with these situations? Are we just going to feel stuck? Are we just going to feel like it is what it is, and this is my life? What this teaches us, what this Hasidic master, Rabbi Dober of Mezrich, teaches us, is that you are not defined by your life circumstances. So you could be in a difficult situation. You could be in a challenging place. You could be at a bad job. You could be stuck in a place where you don't want to be. So there could be all different types of challenges, but you have the ability to keep your heart and your mind above the situation. So you're the only one who's in control of where your thoughts are, where your mind is, where your heart is, and that with that you have the power, the ability to rise above difficult feelings or difficult situation. Even if you're in a bad job or bad career or bad place, you could find happiness, and you could find meaning, and you could find purpose when you have the right perspective. So when your mind is in the right place, that changes everything. There's a Hasidic saying that says, in the place where your mind is, that is where you are. That is where you are. So your mind is very powerful. Your heart is very powerful. And when you could be stuck in a situation, but you could rise above it. You could be above it, and not be defined by whatever situation, however difficult it might be. Okay, so this is the story of Yaakov's preparation for the encounter after 20 years, to see how he would be accepted by Esav, and what would actually happen. Would he accept the peace, or would he in fact have to go to battle and fight with Esav and his people? So finally, this encounter is about to take place, and there is a lot at stake. Of course, Yaakov's life is at stake. The lives of his entire family and all the people who were with him. So it was a very stressful situation. It was a very scary time. And the question was, would they survive? Would they make it through this encounter? So there was a lot at stake on a physical level. Also on a spiritual level, there was a lot at stake, because Yaakov had this mission that he was entrusted with. First, his father, Yitzchak, wanted to try to transform Esav, to make Esav into a better person, to channel his immense energy. Ultimately, Yitzchak never had the opportunity to see this through. But now it became Yaakov's mission, and now this mission, the whole mission is at stake. Is it going to be successful? Would there be a chance to turn Esav around, to help him become a better version of himself, and to channel the energy, Esav's energy, and all the powerful forces that of his character and of his people for positive things and for good things. So there was a lot at stake. Their lives were at stake, and also on a spiritual level, Yaakov's mission was at stake. So let's see what actually happened. Let's give a quick look at the text. We have it both in English and in Hebrew. I'm going to share my screen again. And here we have it. So it's chapter 33. The first few verses, it goes longer than this, but this is the key. Yaakov lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, Esav was coming, and with him were 400 men. So he divided the children with Leah and with Rachel and with the two maidservants. And he placed the maidservants and their children first, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he went ahead of them and prostrated himself to the ground 7 times until he came closer to his brother. Esav ran towards him and embraced him, and he fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. So this is the climax, and this is the encounter that Yaakov was so afraid of. After 20 years, what would happen? And in the end, they embraced, they kissed, they hugged, and it was probably a very big surprise to Yaakov that it would end up this way. But in the end, both Yaakov and Esav, probably Esav more than Yaakov, understood the need for each other, and they discovered the deep feelings that they had for each other. So there was this initial encounter. This encounter, went very well, with brotherly love. But after this, if you continue reading the story, you'll see that they parted ways. So there was this bond and this connection and this compassion and love that was expressed and that was shown, but it was still fragile. This bond was still fragile, and it was clear that more work was required in order for them to be able to stay together and to live in harmony, and to live in peace, and to be happy and safe together. But in the meantime, even though they parted ways, Yaakov was safe. The family was safe. They were not harmed, and they were not attacked. So that was a wonderful thing. Also, on a spiritual level, it became clear that something was accomplished. Something with Yaakov's mission was in fact accomplished. Now, of course, it was not complete. It's clear that it was not complete because they parted ways, and more work still needed to be done. So there was this initial bond, there was this initial unity of Yaakov and Esav, but it was not complete. Only later on, in the time of Mashiach, in the era of Mashiach, would there be this perfect relationship between Yaakov and Esav and everything that Yaakov and Esav represents, which is this harmony, this unity between the spiritual and the physical. Now, to explain this a little bit more and to understand this a little better and to see what this is all about, I'd like to share with you, again, the commentary of Rashi, this time on different words. And I didn't put the text on the screen, but I have it here in front of me. And Rashi quotes the words, and he kissed him, Vayishakeyu in the Hebrew. And if you notice, it was very small in the text. It was very small in the text that we had earlier, but I'll enlarge it here so you can see it. Vayishakeyu. In the Hebrew word, you have these dots above every single letter of this word, Vayishakeyu, and he kissed him. What do these dots represent? You see these dots in the Torah. What do they represent? It's very unusual to have these dots, right? So they're not vowels. The vowels are beneath. There are a couple of vowels on the there's kind of one vowel at the top, but each letter has a dot. What does this mean? And so Rashi explains what this is all about. And I'm going to read you the words of Rashi in English. Rashi quotes the words, and he kissed them. Dots are placed above the letters of this word. Okay. There's a controversy concerning this matter in a Braita, which was written in the times of the Tanaim, in the times of the Mishnah. Some interpret the dots to mean that he did not kiss him wholeheartedly. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said, it is a well-known tradition that Esav hated Yaakov, but his compassion was moved at that time, and he kissed him wholeheartedly. Okay, so Vayishakeyu, this Hebrew word with the dots on top of them, is kind of like quotation marks, right? So if I tell you, and he kissed him, so you know that something is unusual about this kiss, and something is not authentic about this kiss, and about this embrace that they had together. And so Rashi tells us what this is all about, and Rashi says there's actually two different opinions. One opinion is that it was not wholeheartedly. So Esav, maybe just at that moment, he felt like embracing Yaakov, but perhaps in his heart of hearts, he didn't feel like doing it, and he didn't mean it 100%. So yeah, he didn't harm his brother, but he didn't mean the love was not true love, was not 100%. That's the first opinion. The second opinion is that, in fact, even though Esav did hate Yaakov, but at this moment it was true and complete love, and this kiss and their embrace was genuine, and it was 100% authentic. It was true, and that's what both Esav and Yaakov truly meant. It was really true, honest, and genuine. And these two opinions of whether it was genuine or not, in a way represents the two stages in the unity of Yaakov and Esav, and also two stages in the unity of what Yaakov and Esav represent. Okay, so on one level we have two brothers who got into a fight, and they need to get back together again. They need to become friends. They need to show love to each other and be unified. And so there's two stages here. So, and we mentioned this before, there's two stages. First there was this like the first opinion, there was this embrace, and there was this kiss that was not 100% genuine and not 100% true. But that's the beginning. That's the first step in fixing a relationship. That even if they don't mean it 100%, but they're getting together and they're showing that there is a desire to get together. So that's the first step. And then the second step, and the ultimate stage, is when the two brothers finally accept each other 100%. They truly love each other, and they truly mean what they say, and and when they hug and embrace and kiss each other, that's 100% true expression. So these are the two levels. So these two opinions of whether it was true, whether it was wholehearted or it was not. So they're actually two opinions, but they also represent both two stages. So the first stage is when it's not 100% true, but that leads to the ultimate stage, to the final stage where they could finally get together as true brothers and show true love, true acceptance, and true care for one another. So this is on a practical level. This is on a brotherly level. But then we also have this idea of what Yaakov and Esav represent. We mentioned this before, that Yaakov represents the spiritual and the holy side, and Esav represents the opposite, the material, the physical, the pursuit of physical pleasures and desires. And these are in a way two opposing worlds, two conflicting worlds that have trouble coming together. But it's important that they do come together. It's important that they come together because that's how it's supposed to be. Really, in the end, everything is supposed to come together to express how the world has one purpose, has one meaning, and has one God who created everything and is waiting for us to make the world a better place and to be able to reveal how, in essence, everything is good, and in essence, everything is just an expression of goodness and godliness. So ultimately, there is supposed to be this unity, the unity of the physical and the spiritual. It's not supposed to be two separate worlds, but it's a process, it's a journey, and there are two stages. Of course, these two stages have many sub-stages, and the journey is very long, but in general, there are two stages when there's this initial bond, this initial unity between them, between the physical and the spiritual. And then the ultimate level is the second stage, where there is this complete unity. So again, we have these two opinions, whether the embrace and the kiss was wholehearted or was it not. This represents the two stages in the unity between what Yaakov and Esav represent, between the physical and the spiritual. And what's happening is the second stage, the ultimate stage, is where you have this true unity and this ultimate unity between the physical and the spiritual. Now, this to bring this a little bit closer to us, to our world, what this means to us as individuals, what this means also to the world as a whole. So first, as individuals, in our personal lives, so this struggle and this journey represents how we have two sides of ourselves. We have two sides. We have the selfish side, the part of us that is only concerned for ourselves, that is only interested in our own pleasures and our own desires, and just very self-centered and self-focused on enjoying life and feeling good. So that's one part of us. And then we have the other part of us, which is the selfless side, the part of us that wants to help people, that wants to go out of our way to be kind and to be helpful to people, and even if it's going to make us uncomfortable, and even if it's going to require us to give away part of what we have or part of us. That's what this side of us wants to do. The selfless side, it wants to connect to God. It wants to feel attached to God. It wants to be attached to other people, to other souls. And so this is, in a way, a struggle that we have within ourselves. We have the physical and the spiritual. We have the selfish side and the selfless side, and you have this struggle between these two sides. And of course, there needs to be this unity between them. There needs to be this harmony and this connection of one team, because ultimately we cannot be split. We have to be one team, and our whole selves we need to gather all of our energy and all of our ability and all of our power to focus it on positivity, on goodness, on connecting to God, connecting to other people. So of course that's the ultimate step. But it goes in stages. First, like the first opinion in the Rashi, first step is that it's not wholehearted, it's not complete, it's not 100% genuine. But that's the first step. It's the first step because when you make that initial embrace, that initial kiss, Yaakov and Esau getting together, it's the beginning. It's showing the readiness to get together, to make peace. It's showing the need and the desire to get together. So even if it's not 100%, it doesn't matter. Even if you feel like, okay, I'm still not such a good person, I'm still a selfish person, what does it help that I'm going out of my way and doing something for someone? I still am who I am, but that's not a good thought. Because when you do something good, even if you don't mean it 100%, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is the act, and the act is going to bring you closer to the final stage when you have this ultimate harmony and peace between all aspects of your character, all aspects of yourself. When your whole self is joining forces to truly be good, kind, positive, and connect to God and to others, and be there for other people. So this is what this unity means on a personal level, and on a global level. These two stages: the first stage where it's not complete, and the final stage when it is complete, represents the time that we live in now. The time that we live in now, there is this struggle in the world as a whole. There's a struggle between good and bad, between what's right and wrong, between what's moral and what's immoral. There's a struggle there. There are forces in the world. There are good forces and evil forces, and there's a struggle between them. And we're trying to make this unity. We're trying to make the clarity in the world. What is good? What is right? What is true? What should we stand up for? And we could see that the world in general is moving in a very good direction. It's moving to a very good place. And this is the first stage. And of course, the ultimate stage is when there's ultimate peace and ultimate harmony, and the world is a place of only good and only peace and only happiness and only good things. And this is the time and the era of Mashiach. But this time and era of Mashiach, when there's this genuine harmony and unity, this doesn't happen by itself. This is through our work. Through our work during this time of the struggle. Every time we do something, every time we take a positive action, every time we do a good deed, every time we do a mitzvah, we're getting closer and closer to reaching this ultimate state of the time of Mashiach, when we have this true unity and harmony on all levels, and every action that we take makes an impact. And sometimes it could be something so small, or it could feel like something so small, but it makes an impact, and a lasting impact. And something very powerful that Maimonides says, the Rambam says, that we should always look at the world like an equal scale between good and bad. And that means if there's an equal scale where good and bad and right and wrong is even, that means that even a very, very tiny and very seemingly small act could make a tremendous impact and a tremendous transformation, because that is going to tip the scale for the good, and that is going to bring us to the to the second step. So really, and to the final stage. So really, the era of Mashiach is an unbelievable time. It's a time of peace and harmony, but we are the ones who make it happen. We are the ones who bring it about. So there you have it. This is the story of Yaakov getting back together with his brother Esav, this encounter that took place after 20 long years of being away. And I think we learned a few interesting lessons. We talked about the approach and the response that Yaakov took and that Jewish people should take when we encounter an enemy or we encounter a challenge or a difficulty. We talked about 3 things that Yaakov did. We also talked about how you are not defined by circumstances. You have the ability to rise above it and to find the purpose and the meaning and the happiness in whatever situation you find yourself in. Your mind and your heart are very powerful, and your mind can keep you in a state of freedom from whatever situation you might not be happy with. And finally, we talked about the unity, this connection, and between Yaakov and Esav, and everything they represent, the physical and the spiritual. We talked about what that means on a personal level of the different parts of our character, the selfish side, the selfless side, the physical, the spiritual, getting together to focus all of the energy on only doing what's good, what's right, what's positive, what's godly, and what is moral, correct, true, and right.